All right. Hey, Jim. Good to see you again, my friend. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Give just a second here, getting everything set up. Make sure the chat's going well. Checking my vital signs here. And we'll kick it off. 2 lives in 1 day, or I should say 2 lives in 2 days. Not like the usual. Once again, it's because the browser and the way we edit here in Pokemon Wonder is broken. So it is going to be a fun one. I'm going to enjoy this one. I will say that yesterday was a lot of fun too. A little bit different. That was more of a giveaway. Today we're back into the investing. So let's jump right on in and we're going to do this right. So thanks everybody for joining. We're back with another Pokemon Wonder and jumping straight in back into the investment topics. And today we're going to focus on the secret to making money. Now, throughout this chat and throughout this, what I would call yet one more rant. Hey, I'm FOMO, Terry Lake. Good evening, sir. Good to see you. Back to the topic here. We will probably be covering things that you might assume that you already know. And in some cases that you have here, but you don't have here. So what I recommend to you in many cases is to listen through it, because just as I spoke with Terry in our last podcast, there's always something to learn when you're willing to listen, right? So there's things here and the tools that I share with you today, I will give to you completely free of charge. Shortly after the live is finished, I'll have it uploaded to Google Docs and you can share it as well. You can download it, make it your own, give it away to others for free, doesn't matter. But the point of this is there's something to be learned, and it's going to be fun to go through the process. And I'm going to actually go through a live example. Now, before I get into the fun part, I will say first and foremost, there may be an error here. There may be mistakes. I'm going to do this live. I don't typically do the investment videos live. Once again, my editing software is broken, so everything for right now is alive, and I must say it's easier on the editing eyes, but it's a little bit more pressure in terms of the delivery. But regardless, I think this is going to be something that you really enjoy, and it's something that even you might do in other areas, but you don't necessarily always apply to Pokemon. So let's jump on in. What's the secret to making money? And you say, well, obviously, you sell at a profit, right? You buy at a lower cost, sell at a higher cost. And while in fundamentals, that's actually exactly true in a very simplistic way, there's much more to that, right? And what I find, myself included, once again, I make mistakes as well, is that when we go through the purchase, whether it's Pokemon, sports cards, a loan for a house, a car, you name it, we tend to make knee-jerk reactions due to the pressure of the moment. The promo card just came out. It's the last car on the lot of this style that we like. The houses in this area are selling fast. You name it. Whatever that pressure is, we then can be sometimes, not always, but influenced to make a decision without having all the numbers in front of us. So what's the key secret? Have those numbers in front of you. Or do you always have the ability to break out the calculator, open up some spreadsheets, write it down on pen and paper, and calculate the cost? Probably not. So let me give you the tools to make this as easy as possible. So I'm going to turn you around. And by the way, if the music and or the audio isn't quite in a good mix, let me know. Once again, we're using some of the same setup from yesterday, so hopefully everything's still aligned. But let me turn you around, and I'm going to show you what we have here. Now, before I go into any of the details, this is going to be the tool that I give you. So I'm going to give you the spreadsheet. I know, Terry, you don't use Excel. That's okay. But sit back. Maybe there's something here. And, in fact, even the better part for this for me, and back as a circle to the community, if you have feedback, there's something here that I missed. I had a mistake in the calculation. There's something else I should add. Let me know. Reach out to me via Discord or my email or the other 1,000 ways in social media to reach us. And I'm happy to continue to make adjustments. Hey, Crystal, good to see you. Happy to continue to make adjustments. And of course, I'll give this right back out. If Terry says, hey, Justin, if you add this calculation here, it would help do X, Y, or Z. I'll add it here to the spreadsheet, and then I'll reshare it to everybody, and you'll have a fresh new version with all the latest updates. So if you have any improvements, as always, my door is open. So let's jump in. So what do we have here? What are you looking at? So Justin, this is a lot of stuff here, a lot of detail. Let's zoom in. Let's zoom in, because I know this is probably a little bit small for you. So let's focus in on a couple areas. There we go, Terry. For us old men with the glasses, we can now see a bit better. All right, so what do I break this down into? I break this down into a couple sections. We break it into sourcing. This is all color-coded here. We have reselling options. We have some variables, which I'll talk you through. Again, we're going to do a live example here. We have resources, which is what we use to kind of get the data, where to look, good information. And then we have a good bit of summary information here, as well as a disclaimer. All right, so we'll talk through that, as well as the instructions here on the far right-hand side. So in this section, it's very simple, and we're going to walk through this. It's focused today on cards, individual cards. So we're not looking at necessarily a sealed play while you couldn't use it for that. It's not necessarily focused on sealed product or cases. It actually focuses a bit more on cards because we talk about grading, we talk about raw, and those are some areas of which, if we actually look at the numbers, it helps us make informed decisions. And that's the key here. To make good money, let's make informed, educated decisions based on the numbers. And if you do that, most of the time you're going to be okay. So the key instructions are: find the card you're looking to resell, determine the raw price you can purchase it for, and then we're going to look up the details on graded cards and raw cards, and I'm going to show you how we go through that process, as well as we fill in the variables, so all this gets calculated for us, and then it gives us a suggested decision, as well as all the details and the numbers for you to make your own informed decision. I would be remiss if I didn't state it aloud here, is the disclaimer. It's just a tool. You are the most educated people in the market of which you specialize in. So whatever it is that you're doing, it's scroll cards, it's graded cards, it's sealed product, it's investment in real estate, whatever that is, you are the most educated. So this is just a tool. And as I give this to you, again, shortly after the live is over, make your own tweaks to it. This can be adjusted for real estate. This can be adjusted for cars. This could be adjusted for anything. It's just the fundamentals of calculating the financials so that you can make those informed decisions. But obviously, reach out to others if you need help. Once again, Terry's opened his heart and his mind to all those who want to reach out to him for the Pokemon space and more in business. And there's many others, as well as myself, that are willing to help. So if you're not sure, you don't know where to look, is this the right decision, feel free to reach out, and I'll guarantee you that there's hundreds, if not more, people willing to help you always. Okay, so let's jump in. So what's the example that we're going to run through here? So this example will be for a single card, and it will be, in this case, for the Obsidian Flames Charizard. So let's take a look at that real quick, and we'll talk about how that reflects in the spreadsheet. It's this card. It's going to be 223 from the Obsidian Flames set. Now, we have a couple of different areas we're going to look at. So let's talk about sourcing. Let's talk about the card itself. So if you look at this in TCG Player, it's actually going to be about, let's see, $58.49 for a near mint copy. All right. And let's assume that we're going to buy X number of these copies. So let's keep that price in mind, $58.49. Okay. We see it's on a downtrend. It's actually been dropping quite a lot lately. And this is the raw price for a card that's ungraded. All right. Now, if you're looking to make a play, or you're looking to potentially invest into this card and try to make some money, maybe keep one for your collection, let's go through the example. Now, before we jump over to the graded side, actually, as we jump over to the graded side, let's do the same thing. And now let's look at this. And one of the things that we don't typically do in the spreadsheet is talk about liquidity, population, all the details around the graded side of this. So right now for this card, of course, subject to change depending on when you're watching this, we have about 531 in a PSA 10. We have about 1223 in a PSA 9. So the ratio 10% chance grade is about 30.3%. Now again, this is TCG Fish, a great resource if you don't use it already for graded cards only at the moment. and it gives you a lot of great data. If we look down at this, it also lets you pick between PSA, BGS, and CGC. Okay, and as you look down here, right at the bottom, we see then the prices, kind of last sold as well as average of the past 3 months that these cards go for. So last sold of a PSA 10 of this card is about $425. Again, with a 30.3% chance of grading a 10 based on the current statistics. BGS 9.5, we don't have any 10s currently recorded. It's 167.5, and a CGC we're looking at a 250 range. All right. So let's take this as our example. And let's pretend that we want to dive into this card. Hey Mason, good to see you, man. I don't know if I'm going to teach you anything, sir, but if I do, let me know. I'm always happy to share the knowledge. So let's jump into this and let's say, hey, look, we want to look at this Charizard 223 from Obsidian Flames. We're going to buy X number from a raw percentage perspective, and let's see if it's worth grading. So let's jump back to the spreadsheet. And again, everything here I'm going to give you for free. It's something you can download, you can play with it, you can adjust the formulas, do whatever you want. Convert it to pen and paper if that's your way to go. I'm not judging. Whatever is your preferred way. So here we have the Charizard Obsidian Flames. Now, the first thing to note is that anything in yellow is something that you should update, okay? So these are the fields that you need to fill in order to have your decisions and have all the variables calculated. Or excuse me, have all the formulas calculated. So in this case, just a descriptor for the card. We're going to do Obsidian Flames. Let's put the shipping at about $5, and let's scroll down just a little bit. Let's focus on this area first. That price was, what was it? 48 or 58.49. All right. So 48.59 is the purchase price for this card. All right. Now over to the right-hand side of each one of these fields in yellow, I'll give you a descriptor as to what you should expect to put into this field. So in this case, you just put in the actual purchase price. Here, how many do you plan to buy? Again, based on your budget, whatever that is. Is it 5? Is it 2? Is it 10? Is it 50? Or if you're Dan, thousands. Who knows? Let's put in 20, just for this example. Let's say we're going to buy 20 of these at the current near mint price. Now, you may want to look at eBay. You may want to look at TCG Player, other places, Mercari, whatever your preference is for purchasing. But whatever the average is across the platforms that you're going to get this for, then you put that into the purchase price. Now, I'll give you a few other variables. Obviously, if you're looking to make some money, you're going to want to sell somewhere, right? Where are you selling? Well, if you're selling on TCG Player and you have, roughly the average cost for selling, it's about 13%. A little bit more for TCG Player. Again, this is all based on new accounts. If you don't have deals worked out based on history and past sales, obviously if you're selling locally, that's a whole nother ball game. This could be 0, right? So it just depends. But let's just assume that it's going to be eBay. It's the most common. And then, of course, we also have sales tax. So what did you buy it for? If you don't have a reseller's license, which we won't get into today, but you're typically going to pay your sales tax. All right. In my case, in North Carolina, it's about 7.25% for this category. We also have sometimes a transaction cost. If you're on Shopify or other platforms, sometimes they'll charge you a credit card transaction fee. For example, Shopify is about 2.3%, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this now looks at the other side of it to say, well, what's the raw card shipping cost? In this case, I can typically ship a card for about 63 cents. That's about the cost of postage for eBay going outbound. So if you bought cards and you were selling, about 63 cents. And if you're doing a graded card or slabbed card, it's going to be about $7 depending on the cost. Again, if you want insurance, signature required, it just depends. Let's put it at $7.35. Now, the next part is going to be the pre-grading score. Now, I'll give you some resources here down below. So if you're not familiar with these websites, we have a pricing chart, which gives you information on singles and graded slabs. We have Pokedata.io, which is also great for sealed and singles. We have TCG Fish, which we've already looked at. TCG Player. We have eBay. We have Investopedia in case you're interested in some of these calculations and how they work and how do you calculate gross profit margin and percent of profit, gross sales, net sales, so on and so forth. our own site. We have more than 25,000 singles if you're interested. And of course, our graded card investor, which talks about how do you pre-grade. So looking at pre-grading, centering, corners, scratches, and hollows, and all that fun stuff. This gives you a lot of great resources if you're interested in trying to dig into that before you make this decision. So assuming that you're pre-grading and you think you're going to get a 10, we then look at, well, what's the confidence score? How confident are you on that 10 grade that you're pre-grading with, right? And then from there, we then have a section of not gradable cards. So in this case, if you bought 20 and you thought that 6 were not gradable, then you wouldn't send them, right? So from that point, you're probably going to resell them as raw, and you're going to put them back out into the market. And then, of course, your sourcing position, we have a drop down here. We have in hand, planning, ready to purchase, borrowed, consignment. And then last but not least, we have the cash demand. How soon do you need the money? Yesterday? Next month? The next couple of months? Or no rush at all, right? So based on all of these perspectives, we're going to calculate all the details for you. We're going to show you how this actually turns out in terms of profit, the fees, and we're going to give you a recommended solution. Again, just a tool. And you are the most informed person to make that decision yourself. You know the market better than we do. You might know the specifics of this card, the set, what's already been graded, what's coming. So do make sure that you don't take this as gospel. This is just a suggestion. And what it's meant to do is this is meant to help you walk through what sometimes we take for granted. Sometimes we think, oh, hey, you know what? I've been buying Pokemon cards for 10 years. And I'm just going to buy this Pikachu promo stamped card, and we're just going to spend $1,000 on it. Well, does it make financial sense? Did you run the numbers? Well, if you haven't, take 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes. We already looked at TCG Player, and we looked at TCG Fish. Take 2 minutes, plug in the numbers. If it makes sense, great, go for it. If it doesn't, well, then maybe you need to rethink your position, how you want to actually move into a different card, maybe a different play. It just depends. So let's jump back and make sure we got our numbers right. So we got all this here. I'm going to leave this at the current stats just so I can show you one example. Hi, FOMO. Good to see you, buddy. And then we're also going to look at the graded card prices. Let's just double check ourselves to make sure that we're good. So raw, let's put this back at the 48.59. Let's be exactly what we see today, okay? Let's look at the PSA 10. It was a PSA 10 was 425, so that's still correct. PSA 9 is 60. That still looks pretty good. Let's look at CGC 10 and 9. So that was 250, 127.50. That still looks good. BGS, we had 167 for a 9.5. So we actually don't have a 9 or a 10 here. So I play with the numbers a little bit. I put it at about a $300. We're not talking about black labels here. So let's forget about black labels because they're their own beast. Let's forget about that. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and say, well, if a 9.5 was going for about 167, let's roughly double that for a 10 for now, just for example cases, not exact numbers. And then we'll drop that quite significantly for a 9. Because we know how that works. The numbers don't move too smoothly when you go up and down. So from there, now we have some decent information. So let's go ahead and now zoom out just a little bit so we can see this in full scale. And I hope it's not too small for you. If it is, if you're not familiar with YouTube as well, you can actually zoom in on the picture. So if this gets a little too small for your comfort level, feel free to zoom in on areas you want to focus on interest. So I'm going to go ahead and expand this so we can see all the numbers. Perfect. All right, let me do a quick set here. All right, so what do we got? So we have this Charizard sitting at roughly a graded cost of 14 being graded. Why 14, Justin? Why is only 14 being graded? Well, remember that we said over here that 6 were not gradable, right? So I'm walking you through this example live so you know how to work the spreadsheet, you know how to kind of play with it, and again, make it your own, adjust it, do as you see fit. Out of those 14 that are gradable, you're going to end up selling that at about $5,950 based on the current PSA 10 price. We have a shipping cost of about $102.90. Well, how did you calculate that? Once again, you told us, based on these variables in yellow, that you need to fill in based on what card you're looking at. Your graded card shipping cost is about $7.35. All right, so that's how we calculate this. Revenue total is going to be $5,847.10. Our selling fees, based on the 13%, is about $760. Transaction costs, again, you can make that zero if you're not working with Shopify. If you're working different platforms, it just depends. Now, I didn't add tax here. Why do you not add tax, Justin? Because typically eBay, TCG Player, such platforms, they actually charge tax on your behalf to the end buyer. So you don't need to calculate tax on your side. So now, obviously, if you're doing this in person and you want to be aligned with your taxes, you may or may not charge taxes and keep money aside. But assuming you're selling on one of these platforms, it's already done for you. So you don't have to have it in this side of the calculation. We have net sales of $4,952.49. Cost of goods sold. What is that? What is cost of goods sold, Justin? Cost of goods sold is going to focus on, and by the way, you can double click on any one of these. And there we go. And see the formula. What is the formula? So it's looking at these few columns or these few rows and cells focused on actually the buy-in price, the quantity, the sales tax, the shipping. This is the shipping to you. So when you bought that original sourcing card, what did it cost you to ship those 20 raw copies? In this case, we put $5. It could be 10, it could be 15, whatever the number is. And so that's your cost of goods sold. It's what did it cost you to get the product in your hands so that you could resell it, right? And then from there, gross profits. So here we're looking at $4,222.60. Now, you may say, well, this looks great. Why don't we do this all the time? So obviously, we're playing with some numbers here. If you're buying 20, is only 6 of those going to get a 10? Is your confidence score correct? There's many variables there that could maybe not turn out in your direction, right? So you send those over to PSA, and maybe it's not 6 that got a 10, or excuse me, maybe it's not 6 that were not gradable, but it's also another 5 or 10 that got a 9. So you have to really take that into account. This is based on the pre-process before you sell it. It's trying to help you make informed decisions before you actually invest the money, right? That's the point of this. Let's make sure that we're making money and we're planning ourselves ahead so that we actually can present our best selves going forward and try to actually make money through the process. Of course, a few of those won't get 10s, of course, but hopefully enough do so that you see the profits. Now, for the 6 that we could not grade, which is what I have highlighted here, I'll zoom in on that for you just a little bit so we can focus in on this area. We now have 6 that are being sold. Sales price is $291. We're selling at the same price that we bought it for. So clearly that's going to be a loss. We already have the transaction costs. We have the fees on the platforms. We're going to take a loss, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, we still come out with a total of $4,153.37 as a profit, right? That's the goal of this. How do we make those informed decisions? So let's look at a couple of key things that we want to understand about the spreadsheet and how it works. So I'm going to zoom back out just a little bit. And I noticed that when I expanded the cells, it got just a little bit big. So give me 1 second. Let me fix that for you. 1 second. There we go. All right. So let me expand these just a little bit. Now, what's some key things we want to look at? We want to look at the grading automation. So what are we doing in grading? If you say 10 here, we're going to assume 10 at the top of each one of these PSA, CGC, and BGS. Feel free to rename these to whatever you want, AGS, whatever your preferred grading company is. But we're also going to do grading desired confidence of the grading -1, right? So if you say, I think all these are 9s, then we're going to do 9 and an 8. So you need to go back and update your prices from TCG Fish or whatever your sources are, eBay, whatever the case may be. So we're always going to do current grading score -1 because you have to anticipate that you're going to get some that don't end up where you expect them to be. So that's one of the caveats I want to make sure I point out to you. What's another one? Well, let's say that we ordered 20, and you know what? 18 of these are not looking too good. Out of the 20, they have some whitening on them, some corners that are not great. And so then what does that tell us? Well, even at 18, so you can see here we have bought 20, 18 are not gradable. Even then, the two that are gradable, because it has such a high premium for the PSA 10, we're still actually going to profit about $395. Let's keep dropping this down just a little bit to see when the break happens, because I don't want to show you all, fairy dust and rainbows here. So let's take a look at 19 of those are not gradable. All right. So now we see a difference in outcome, because if you noticed before, let's put it back to 18 for just a second. We say shoot for PSA 10. This is the suggested decision. Why is that? Well, based on the raw cards prices, which is here to the right, or to the left, excuse me. That's the raw price. Based on all of these graded prices, PSA 10 would give you the best outcome financially. And so if you can shoot for that PSA 10 in this case, once again, you're going to make $395 in terms of profit. Now, we have some cutoffs to this. Let's put it back to 19 and say out of the 20, only one of these are gradable. It's not working out well at all. Well, that's okay, because now we're going to help you make that informed decision, hopefully, before you spend your money, right? So here we're talking about you got less than 10% profit. It may not be worth your time. So we're going to try to basically let you know that when you're making a low percentage in profit, stop, pause, think, make sure this is what you want to do, because you're going to spend a lot of time. You're going to spend at least 3 months in grading process. You're going to have to sell it. And of course, you have to anticipate where the market's going to be once you get the cards back. And if you're working for less than 10% profit, there's probably a better card out there that you can focus on. Let's go through some other nuances of the spreadsheet, because there's a lot of good stuff here. Let's go back. Let's make this only 6. So we're back at some decent numbers. Now, let's say you're in a hurry for the money. Let's say, you know what? Things are really tight. I need this money right away. And I'm going to change this cash on demand drop down to I need this yesterday. Well, if you need this yesterday, you shouldn't be buying Pokemon cards. What are you doing? There's a 3-month turnaround in your grading time from the time you ship it off to the time you get it back, unless you're paying some premiums, which we're not going to get into the nuance of paying the premiums. If you're not doing that, then just don't buy Pokemon cards, because you're not going to get it back that fast. These things are not as liquid. And I was just talking to my wife. We were actually recapping past, Pokemon podcasts. And Terry put it very well. I know Terry's here in the chat perhaps still. And, hitting that button for your 401k or for retirement or for a stock is a lot faster than selling $100,000 to the Pokemon. Mason can confirm this in the chat. It takes time. So if you want it yesterday, don't buy Pokemon. Let's keep going. Let's say that, you know what, it's okay. We can take it in a few months. But, the confidence score. I get these 20 cards in. I want this 10. The pre-grading, I think, is a 10, but I'm not so confident. Maybe I'm kind of new to pre-grading. I'm not so sure how heavy they are. And, of course, every company is slightly different on how much whitening, how much off-centering they would allow. But let's say my confidence score was 50%. Well, here in this case, the decision's going to say, well, we suggest that this is too risky. I suggest that you actually just sell raw, or you hold, or don't buy at all, right? If you haven't purchased already, then just don't buy them. Because if your grading confidence score is going to be 50%, you don't want to do it. Now, in this case, let's go back to TCG Fish. Here we have 30.3%, a PSA 10 chance. So right off the gate, based on the numbers alone, it's not a guaranteed 10 for this specific card. So you want to be careful there, and obviously make sure that you're looking at these very well. You're assessing your pre-grading as good as you can. And again, the link down below is right here. It talks through the centering, it talks through surface scratches, it talks through the whitening in the corners, all the details that you want to look at. So do check out the resource. I have no affiliation in any way or shape or form, but it's just good resources. So in this case, it's just something you can use as a tool in your tool bag to make those informed decisions. Let's go back to our 90% confidence score. Let's play with some other things. Let's go ahead and say that, you know what? Maybe it's not PSA. Maybe the BGS, for whatever reason in the future, BGS is doing better. Let's say that they're sitting at $500. Well, as you can see now here to the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and assess the details that are happening here in yellow, those variables that you're changing. Say, it's okay. We see that now that the BGS will give you the better returns. And again, you want to adjust perhaps your grading costs, your shipping costs, all those details accordingly so that it reflects BGS versus PSA. But if you did so, then okay, we'll take that into account. So not a problem. Whatever, again, your details here are in yellow, we're going to calculate all of that for you accordingly. And last but not least, let's look at just a few more details. I'll expand this here, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the decisions around financial, I would say financial patience. So there's a great example of this in our studies from Harvard. One of the things I want to point out to you here was this was The Guardian put out some financial reviews and updates not that long ago. And they talked about the marshmallow test. Well, that marshmallow test came from Stanford University quite some time ago. If you're not familiar with it, they actually put a number of kids in a room and they gave the kids a marshmallow. And they told them, they said, look, you can have one marshmallow now, or if you wait a number of minutes, we're going to come back in the room and we'll give you 2 marshmallows, right? And I think this is very applicable to what we're talking about here. So we're looking at cards, we're looking at making money. There's this reward feeling that comes with this, which is the same thing as a marshmallow. Now, can you wait to get 2 marshmallows? Well, what's the waiting in this context, Justin? The waiting is taking the time to do the research, taking the time to look at the numbers, plug in a couple of variables, take 10 minutes and do some research. Most of the time, if you take just 10 minutes, you will make a much better decision than if you do just like that. Unless you just know the market that well, you're on top of things on a daily, hourly basis, then fine. Maybe you don't need any of this and you should just click away from this video right now. But for most of us, we have a life, we have a family, we have other things, we have a job. So we may miss some things, and looking at the numbers and waiting to get that second marshmallow will probably be worth our time. So going back to this example, again, taking the time to make sure that you can just look at these numbers a little bit and try to make sure that you're making those informed decisions, it will help you so much. Let's see if there's anything else I want to point out to this. As I said before, it's singles not graded. Make sure you take into account the turnaround time. Now, I will say that this little block here, if you're going to modify this yourself, this is quite the formula. It's not anything complicated. It's just a bunch of if statements. By the way, my background is in programming, so I did software engineering and programming for 15 or so years. So these are things that I do. That's why if you simply have a suggestion or an improvement that I missed or didn't calculate, let me know. I'll be happy to make it for you and redistribute this across the entire community. But if you want to make all these changes yourself, you can jump right in. I don't block anything or protect anything. This is all for you. But I would say this is probably the most complex section of it because it's a bunch of nested if statements. So if you're not familiar with Excel, it could get a little intimidating, but it's basically just walking through the logical process of looking at what makes sense and what doesn't. So feel free to look at that at any point in time and adjust it to meet your needs. But as I was saying, the timing. Make sure you look at the timing because grading cards can take some time to get back to you. Looking at that cash to be turned around is going to be at least, I would say, 3.5 to 4 months from start to finish. Sourcing, grading, getting it back, selling it, getting the money from eBay back to your bank account, whatever the case may be. It's going to be everything. Exactly right, Ryan. Timing is everything in life. And time changes everything. It changes your perspective. It changes your knowledge. It changes the market. It changes the price. It changes everything. So take the time. If you don't take the time for yourself to make informed decisions, nobody's going to do it for you. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There's going to be people lined up hoping that you are not taking the time to make an informed decision so they can take your money. So make sure you take that time. And again, this hopefully is a tool in your tool bag to help you make that informed decision. But if you have any questions about this, how does it work? What about any detail? Drop it in the chat, either now, later, whatever the case may be. I'm happy to answer anything around this. Again, give me about 30 or so minutes after today's live, and I'll be happy to get this uploaded to Google Docs so you can actually download it yourself free of charge. No strings attached, nothing there that you need to worry about. And again, always happy to share with everybody within the community. So Ryan, see you here. Time is such a scary concept when you think about it. Yeah, I fully agree, Ryan. And I think you're quite young, if I'm not mistaken. And Terry and I are much older. It's interesting, Ryan. I will say that I was listening to, for example, PK in his latest rant. And he talked about, a day is a year and a year is a day and so on and so forth. And, part of that for me was quite funny because I wanted to talk to him and basically say, yeah, well, it also happens when you become a parent, right? So as you become a parent and you have kids, life goes very, very quickly because the days are so busy. But also as you get older, just in general, which, often comes with family and other responsibilities. But it is very scary, Ryan. And it's something that we don't have control over, right? And this is why it's so important to make the most of every day. We're a bit of a tangent here. I'll kind of come off of the spreadsheet for just a minute. But time is something that we never have control over, but it controls everything, right? And how we play the game of time will determine where we land at the end of all of this. And at the end of the day, right? This is Les Brown. So Les Brown talks about the concept of sitting on your deathbed, and surrounded your deathbed is going to be your dreams, your goals, and aspirations that you never achieved. And they're going to look at you and say that only you could have helped us achieve these, and you didn't. So what are you going to regret on your deathbed? Because they did a study. I don't think it was a Harvard study, but they did a study on this. And when they looked at people in a retirement home, the thing they regretted the most is the things they didn't do. Not the things they did, not the mistakes they made. It's the things they didn't do. So I'm not saying go out there and take crazy risks. That's not the point of this. But go after what you want, right? What is it you want? And go after it with all that you have. And as long as you give it your best, you won't regret it at the end of life. We got Live on Purpose. I have been doing this since April. I used to buy cards and send no research, LOL. Now quickly learn that cards you think through yeah, exactly. So, so many people don't take the time just to do some small calculations. And those change your entire viewpoint. Plug in a few numbers here. And again, if 3 months pass by and that card goes up in value, even selling it raw could be a play. And we do take that into account, by the way, in the suggested decision maker. So if the raw price goes up and the PSA 10 is not a good confidence score, or there's just not good value to be made in grading, we take that into account and say, hey, look, you should probably do this as a raw play. Buy raw, hold it, and put it into the binder. And if we do have a scenario here where if all these scenarios look really bad, we say, you know what, just walk away slowly. Walk away slowly, don't spend your money, and save that for something else, or change your play. So Live on Purpose, yeah, very good points. Let me see what you got here. So now I'm very selective, and I look at the numbers before I buy, but I'm 3 months, but those 3 months I have $500 to be $250. All right, well, keep working on it, my friend. Keep working on it. Time, again, changes everything, as Ryan said. It's going to be one of those things where hopefully, as we've seen with Pokemon, it continues to grow over time. But again, it could change in an instant. And this goes back to a comment, once again, I'm not doing this on purpose, but it happens to be the most recent conversation that we had, and that's with Terry. And my wife mentioned it because we were talking today about a couple of things, and Terry's conversation came up because she just watched the live and she finished it. And she says, I like what Terry said about liquidity and how he was talking about not having everything in Pokemon. I said, exactly right, sweetheart. Because you do not want to have anything, or I should say, you don't want to have everything into any one thing, right? If you have all your investments in Pokemon, you're in a dangerous place. I do not recommend that whatsoever. Upwards of 10, 15-ish% of your overall net worth would be about where I personally feel comfortable with. I'm somewhere, honestly, a little bit above that right now. But in general, keep your general funds distributed across many areas. Now, there is a funny video from Alex a little while back. Alex at Nostalgianomics, a good shout out there. And he talks about Warren Buffett and some of the most successful people in the world. And it's a really good perspective. And one of the comments they say is, diversification is for idiots. Now, that has to be taken into context. Because diversification, as they try to imply, when building massive wealth in the beginning, it's good to have that hyper focus. You put everything in, you grow that, you build your wealth. And then diversification protects your assets. The younger you are, the more risk you can take. The older you are, and hopefully the more wealth you've built over the years, the more you want to protect that wealth. And diversification helps you protect the wealth. So keep that in mind as well. But again, I'm not saying throw all in on any one thing, especially not Pokemon. You never know where it's going to go. But hopefully this video, this chat, this spreadsheet, these tools all help to make informed decisions for you. And again, tweak this any way you see fit. If you have any feedback for me, door is always open. Feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to make those adjustments for you. Let's see if we have anything else here in the chat. Thank you, Terry. Glad you stuck around, sir. Talking risks have benefits, but also have downsides. Yeah, exactly, Ryan. There is a perspective on... there's actually a whole education course around risks and risk assessments. So every decision we have has risk that comes with it. And there's a downside to it. And many times, because we're so focused on the positivity of it, we lose track of that potential risk assessment of the decision that we're making. And it also has a double-edged sword, because if we don't focus on the positive and we try to forge through, we may not overcome the hurdles of that downside. So you have to kind of weigh both of those and try to make the most informed decisions. Again, try to be informed, try to make the best decisions you can, but at the end of the day, as long as you learn from your mistakes, and better yet, learn from somebody else's mistakes to save you time, then you'll be okay at the end of the day. Just don't keep making the same mistake. There was a reference with... I did a lot of personal growth with a lot of personal kind of advanced coaches, and you have, what's his name? Tim... You say Terry, stuck in my head now. Anthony Robbins, right? Anthony Robbins. So Anthony Robbins talks about walking around the block and falling in the same hole, right? So you take a walk around the street every day, and you end up falling in the same hole, and you get mad because the hole is still there and you keep falling into it. Well, why don't you just change the path you're on and don't fall into the hole, right? So that's the learning of the lesson, right? So move through the path of life and learn from those holes that you fall into. And if you do that, most of the time you're going to be okay, because the key, whether it's YouTube, Pokemon, your personal relationships, if you're just improving something just a little bit every day. Yesterday we talked about working out in the live stream and the giveaways. If you go to the gym every day and you just do just a little bit better, one more rep, one more pound, one more mile, whatever that case is, and you make that little improvement, that's it. The trajectory over 10 years is something you cannot believe. That's the same thing as compounding interest. So looking at putting in $10 every day into something that has compounding interest, you'll be a millionaire before you realize it. But if you don't put in that money, or you don't put in the reps, or you don't put in the effort to take that new path and not fall in the hole, then you're not making that interest and you're not growing exponentially over time. Pokey Steve, what's up, big homie? Much respect, as always. Yeah, same to you. Thanks for stopping by, Pokey Steve. Much appreciated, sir. Much appreciated. Good to see you with us. All right, so we're about 45 minutes in. I think we'll wrap it up. Just a few more questions here from the live in the chat, and then we'll end it out. And again, if you're just jumping in, what we have on the spreadsheet, if you didn't see it earlier, I'll be sure to share this shortly after the stream. So this is a whole breakdown. It does all the calculations for you. It calculates your revenue, your selling fees, your transaction costs. I'll share this with you completely free, no strings attached. Just look for the link in the description and in Discord shortly after we finish it live, and I'll make sure you have that quickly available to you. So let's see, Live on Purpose. If someone is selling on TCG, do you think they would have an idea of a PSA 10 price, and why wouldn't they send it and make that money themselves? Yeah, great question. So, and I know Rob at RNG Games, Mason, much of the same. There's many LGSs that are definitely starting to step into the graded plays. But I will say that you have to look at a couple of factors. And here's the way that I would suggest to at least start. And again, add to this where you see fit. Live on Purpose. It's going to be, look at what else they're selling. Look at the name on TCG Player, and you can probably find the corresponding name on eBay or other platforms. See if they're selling graded cards. And if it's just a few, then I wouldn't worry too much about it. Meaning that if they're selling mostly raw, and they probably bought some collections or bought some stuff some people brought in that's graded already, then yeah, no big deal. But if they have massive amount of graded cards, then they're probably doing exactly what you're talking about. So especially if you're shopping on eBay, go look at the seller's store, right? Let's take an example. Let's go ahead and let's just do this live. Let me see. So let's take a look at eBay. And I'm not logged in. I don't think I have anything here. So we're just going to do this. Oh, sorry. I'm not sharing my screen. Here we go. So I'm just going to do this live. And we'll do this together, right? So let's say Pokemon cards. I'm just, really simple example. I'm going to show you this real life. So let's, oh, what do you know? Here's the Charizard we were just looking at. So let's see who's selling this. All right, so the seller here is a collectible store. They have a lot of reviews, pretty high score. Well, why would they not grade this themselves? Now, this looks like a bit of a play. They're using this card as a lure into other things, but let's just go with this for example for just a second. Click on the actual seller's name in the case of eBay. We jump into it. What else are they selling? Let's scroll through it. All right, well, looks like it's mostly raw cards. I don't see a single graded card here, at least so far, right? So in this case, it looks like they're getting a lot of sealed product, probably a lot of raw product, and perhaps in this case, they're not actually go by real pictures. Yeah, these are also real pictures. So they're taking the time to actually, because you can see the background here. Let's take a look at this one, just as an example. They're taking the time to actually take a picture of this on a background. So in this case, not only are they not necessarily selling raw cards, graded cards in mass, but they're also taking individual photos. So in this case, I probably would say that you could get some near mint cards that are gradable. But when the inverse of this is true and they have a lot of graded cards, then you want to be very careful with that, because they actually may be taking out the gradable cards, and what you would get could still be near mint based on TCG standards. I do recommend that you go look at those TCG standards because they talk about it. You can get a near mint card from TCG Player that's still not going to get you a PSA 10, or at least not as guaranteed. if it's already been picked through. So be careful with that. And I'll say, just very simplistically speaking, not in any 100% confidence type of perspective. Most LGSs, some LGSs are going to focus on moving product. They got their distribution agreements. They have to move that sealed product through every month in order to make their profit margins and buy the next round through distribution. Grading cards is tying up capital. So if they're grading cards in parallel, they're not going to get any money back for 3 months plus, maybe probably 4 months to be honest. And so from that perspective, LGSs will dabble in it sometimes, but they can't invest fully in it. It's this whole reseller market that tends to focus on the grading, to be honest with you, because the holding up of your funds for 3 or 4 months, it's going to take some time. All right, what else we got here? Mason's pissed. No, Mason loves me. Mason loves me just a little bit. Mason turned me down for a podcast. I was offering to be his podcast host. He wanted to start a podcast, and he said, "You already have a podcast." I said, "Well, my feelings are hurt, sir. My feelings are hurt." But no, all jokes aside, lots of love to Mason. But Mason knows he has to churn his profits every month because he has to then spend every month with the distribution. Because if he doesn't, his allocations get hurt. And if he can't continue to get his allocations, he can't have product for the store. So what's more important to him? Selling his sealed product in raw cards and get money this month, or to tie up money for 4 months and wait to see if he gets PSA 10s and 9s and things that are worth it and try to sell those graded cards. He's going to churn more, I would say, sealed and raw than anything else. Of course, he'll play in graded, but definitely perspective. Perfect, because I have been getting hosed recently. So where are you buying from, Live on Purpose or Live on Purpose? Are you buying from TCG Player? Sometimes it can be hard, but again, look at the stores and try to find that store. Even look at it on Google and try to actually call and see if they sell graded cards. Call the store. Check it out and see what they have. Check out their website. Typically, each store will have their own website in addition to TCG Player. So try to see if they're working on graded cards. Go by the pictures. iFOMO, your point about the pictures is also good when it's real pictures. Now, I'll give you my perspective, and again, full transparency. I grade, but I don't grade everything. I don't like to grade everything. Here's the way that I do it. So, and this is just me, just my personal way of working through the business side of Pokemon. I buy collections, and from those collections, I have enough cards that I want to pay for the collection when I get them graded. So I'll take, let's say it's a 300 card collection binder, and there's 5 cards that I think are worth grading that will pay for the binder in a PSA 9 or 10. I kind of look at both prices using these types of calculations I showed you here today. And then from that, I'll take the rest of the, 395 cards, or excuse me, 295 cards, and then put those into raw or my personal collection. Because I want to pay for the binder, but then after that, everything else is basically bank. And I prioritize my collection and spending time with my kids. So I use that as ways for us to grow what we do in Pokemon, sharing with the kids, trading. We build our own decks and we play a TCG game. So I'll probably grade about 5 or 6 cards out of the set, and that's it. And the rest of it still may have some cards that are gradable, but not everything. Everything else for me goes onto TCG Player and eBay in my Shopify store. Now, this is the thing I want to tell you about the photos. TCG Player as a whole will use stock photos, and that's why unless somebody uploads their photos manually, which is the exception, not the rule, you don't get to see the actual condition. You have just the rating: near mint, lightly played, heavily played, so on and so forth. And I use the same thing. And the integration tool that I use, which is called Binder POS, I pay a monthly fee plus a fee for transactions. They also use the stock images. And so when I synchronize that listing onto eBay, it uses a stock image from TCG Player because Binder POS is owned by TCG Player. And so many times I'm selling cards on eBay that don't have the actual photo of the card, but I do my best to try to sell them as accurately as possible. And so definitely back to iFOMO's point, take a look at the pictures when they're actual pictures of the card. But most of the time, if you're buying in masses, you're especially if we're talking about hundreds or thousands, you're not going to be able to look at those many pictures. You're just going to have to shoot some money into it, look at where the card has been graded, if it's an older card that has grading history, see how it's been trending, and try to make your best decision. Again, try to find those sellers that are accurate, maybe do a small sample, buy just 2 or 3, see the quality of their quote-unquote near mint, see if it's truly near mint, and if you're happy with it, okay, then buy 50 or 100, whatever the case may be. And sample the market, test it out. Miriam is an example. Yeah, bad listing. True. Yeah, I agree with you, Terry. It's going to be a tough one to go through. The juggling act. It's a tough one. iFOMO. I have people who buy collections, reserve mint cards for me. I'm your buyer. All right, iFOMO. Well, there you go, everybody. If you have some mint cards from your binder collections, you want to sell them to iFOMO, he is all about it. And so this is Terry's comment on terms of coins. It's exactly the way that I buy coin collections. And you can say that about anything, right? You buy anything in mass, and you do that, and obviously you know what you're looking at. You understand what you see in terms of value. And then you're going to be able to pick out the pieces of that so that you can actually determine to get your money back, because you're going to go through it. And here's the other thing is, obviously it doesn't happen every day all the time. But when you buy collections, look for those people. And this is, again, I share everything with full transparency. I'm not hiding any details. I look for people that aren't Pokemon sellers. No offense. But if I'm buying collections for me, I want to buy from the guy that's been holding on this collection since he was a little child. And maybe he sold some video games, some action figures. You can tell he's getting rid of his old stuff. Look at the seller's accounts and see what they've been selling. This is more of an eBay thing, obviously, not TCG Player. See what they've been selling. And if they've been selling other things other than Pokemon cards, then this isn't what they do all the time, right? And then from there, assess the cards. Look at the binder. Look at the collections. If you need to, ask for some extra pictures. Run it through the calculator that I'm going to give you today. Okay, so hey, if I look at these 5 cards, is it worth me buying? And then I get the other 200 cards for free. So if you do that with anything, because if you're willing to go through, and this is the key to this little binder, coin, collection, whatever that may be, buyout. If you're willing to do the hard work of going through it and then selling them individually, then you typically can make more money from it. So in my example, we have roughly 26,000 cards, single cards in inventory right now. And I go through them. I list every one of those 26,000 cards have been touched by my hands. I looked at them and I put them through the Binder POS software to then create a listing on my Shopify, TCG Player, and eBay automatically. Now, I have to pay a fee for that, right? But as long as you're making enough money every month to cover your operational costs, then that fee is worth it. Because the really nice thing about Binder POS, and by the way, I'm not sponsored by them in any way or shape or form. Binder POS, if you want to sponsor me, I'll allow you to do that. Is they actually track the price. They update your price every 12 hours. So if you have 26,000 listings, you do not want to update the prices on those ever, right? At some point, it's not manageable. So with Binder POS, they look at market price, and you can adjust it. You can say, hey, for this set, increase it by this %, or for the cards over this dollar amount, increase it by this. You can create all kinds of crazy rules. But in general speaking, it will increase the price for you every 12 hours based on what the market does. Now, it only works for single cards. It doesn't actually work for sealed or graded cards. That's not what TCG Player works with. in terms of graded for sure, but they don't have it working for sealed either. But for singles, that's what it works. And when you have 26,000 singles, what better way to make sure that you're priced accurately to the market, right? So keep that in mind. All right, let's see what else we got. TCG, yeah, definitely cross-reference. Yeah, so cross-reference the stores. Take a little extra diligence, especially when you're buying multiple cards. If you're just buying one for your collection, you want to throw it in your binder to say you fulfilled the set of Vivid Voltage, then fine, whatever. You don't have to do that much research. But if you're buying to resale, you have to be careful. iFOMO, you're starting to sound like Dan. He says, I buy mint cards, as Dan says, just grade 10s. Just grade 10s. Let's see what else we got here. I thought of advertising myself buying mint cards for a slight premium. iFOMO. I'll comment to that. The more you advertise what you want to do, the more people will reach out to you. So whether it's Instagram or whatever the case may be, put it out there. Even an ad in your local paper or your website for your local community, whatever it may be. You'd be surprised how many people reach out to you. Now, obviously, you're going to get some junk, right? People are trying to sell you junk. As long as you have a keen eye, you'll be able to sort through that quickly. But don't hesitate, because you'll be surprised how many good deals you'll come across. Yeah, I hope I get that sponsorship. Live on Purpose. Binder POS, and let me be very transparent with my costs as well. So Binder POS costs $100 flat if you do nothing. If you just have the software and you do nothing a month. So at a minimum, you need to make $100 profit to pay for, in this case, the very simple operation costs. Now, you can't have Binder POS without Shopify. Shopify costs you $40 a month, basic, the very essentials one. I'm kind of going soft with the numbers here, but loosely speaking, so $140 now. Now, Binder POS also charges you a transaction fee per card, which is about 2 cents per card that is synchronized to TCG Player. So depending on the number of cards that you synchronize, in my case, you can do the math, 26,000 times 2 cents. But I didn't do that all at once. Obviously, I did. I was running through inventory over the course of, since July, honestly. So since July, I've been running through inventory. I just now got caught up to the 26,000, and I still have about another 10,000 or so more to go. Then, in addition to that, they charge you about I think it's 2.5 or 3.5, 0.2535 for each transaction. So whether you're selling on eBay or whatever the case may be, because the really nice thing about Binder POS is you manage everything in Shopify. So as you sell something in TCG Player, it synchronizes back to your Shopify store, and you have all your orders and your customer information synchronized. If it sells on eBay, it synchronizes back to your Shopify store. Now, there's still more detail and nuance, right? If you're going to get the best shipping costs, then you may not always use Shopify. I don't use Shopify 99.9% of the time. And a good shout out to Ray at Shining Cards and Collectibles. So Ray, I was on a podcast with him early on. He says, I mentioned my cost for shipping singles, and he says, why don't you use Orange Mailer? So shout out to Orange Mailer. I'll give you the link in the description after the shorts or after the live is over. But you can ship everything outside of eBay for about 66 cents in a pre-printed 4x6 Dynamo type of label, and then from there basically around the world, right? eBay is about 63 cents, so for just again envelope based letters. So from there you can ship about 63 cents per order if it's single cards, and I can fit about 8 to 10 cards in an envelope. So without getting too fat and too heavy, because sometimes they'll actually check it, at least at my post office. I don't know if they do at yours, but sometimes they'll check it to make sure it actually fits and it's not overweight, and put it back into your box or return to sender. But about 8 to 10 cards. So you can get about 8 to 10 cards in a single envelope, shipped for that respective 66 or 63 cents, depending on where you're shipping from. So just because it synchronizes back to your Shopify store doesn't mean that you do everything there. I still go to eBay. I print shipping labels. Packing list looks better, honestly, on eBay. And then everything gets fulfilled and then emails sent out to the customer via Shopify. But again, all of my orders, all of my financials, everything sits in Shopify because Binder POS does all the integration for me. So Binder POS does charge you a decent amount. So you want to make sure you have volume, I guess is really the point that I'm getting to after all this and sharing the transparency of the cost. But as long as you have the volume coming through that covers your operational costs, I mean, again, can you imagine trying to update the price on 26,000 products? It's not feasible. And the number of people you have to do that is again, not feasible. So use technology to your advantage, but grow slowly, move through that, when it makes the right sense for you. All right, let's see what else we got. Pokey Steve, I didn't grade. I usually just dump my doubles onto the market. Centered, off-centered, yeah, who knows? Yeah, it depends on what the goals are. I mean, I'm not a graded card collector, Pokey Steve. I have a few that I bought just because they were cheaper than the raw cards, to be honest with you. But I don't necessarily want to collect graded cards. For me, I'm a binder collector. That's just what I like, it's what I enjoy. And it's something that this is more enjoyable for me. I like to pull up a binder and just flip through it and just enjoy the binder itself. Let's see, iFOMO, what do you got? You can tell a lot from a seller by the way he or she packs their orders. Yes, that's right. You know what? I wasn't going to show my screen, but I mentioned it yesterday. Let me see if I can just quickly share with you. I have something here I can show you. So this is how we're off topic here, but why not? This is a Wednesday night rant, right? Not. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So let me share my desk. So this is actually an order that I have going out. I don't want to show the person's address there. But this is the envelope that I send it in. I put a sticker on it. I package everything quite nicely. So what I'll end up doing, let me actually show you, is I put everything into a Voltex, semi-rigid. Of course, a penny sleeve. And then I have everything else here. So, these are just the basic envelopes. They're self-sealing. I get these in mass. And I'll do a separate video on this where I show my shipping costs. No bean juice for retro. How do you make money, Ponga? If seller's store has 3 or more cards. Let's see. Let me read this. I gotta get close to my old man eyes here. Retro, thanks for joining, man. If the seller's store has 3 Pokemon cards and the rest are a bunch of random junk they've accumulated around their house, you're lit. Crazy, Retro. Crazy, Pongo. Guys, I was just sharing a few minutes ago. Before I do, I'll get back into it in just a second. But I'll show you what I was actually sharing with the team here in terms of the chat. And some of the tools I was giving out, and feel free to use them if you guys want to. But in the meantime, let me quickly wrap up. So on the previous point I was making is I'll put the single cards in here, and again I put up to 5 in one of these. Just a very simple self-seal envelope. I'll wrap a sticker on the back for a little bit of branding, and then I'll put this into a what was it called? A sleeve. So basically put this into a sleeve, into here, fold it up with the packing slip, good to go. Branded, nice and simple. My costs total is about I think it's $1.11. That's all shipping supplies, every single sleeve, every single piece of information. Comes about $1 and some change. Again, I do that because I don't want to ship plain white envelopes. That's just me. I know thousands of people do it. I want to take a little bit extra precaution. I want to show a product delivered nicely. And again, even if you're selling, and in my case, with the 26,000 cards in inventory, even if I'm only selling a few cards, that's worth $2 or $3, you have to remember that I'm still netting $50, 100% in profit, even though it's a few cards. So from that perspective, I may have paid 1-2 cents for those cards because I buy out entire collections. So if I've only spent 1 cent or less on a card, and I'm spending $1 and I've sold it for $2.50, you can do the math, right? And the good thing about this is they receive the card, it's safe, and I ship it in such a way that even if the cards get a little bit wet, not obviously drenched in water, but if they get a little bit wet, they still get delivered, safely and soundly. And that person will probably be a repeat buyer from me again because the cards were delivered nicely and packaged well. So back to iFOMO's point, I put a lot of time on the personal touch, but with a balance of cost so that I get those repeat buyers and I'm not just another plain white envelope. So that's just me. I care about what I do and I want to make sure that I put the best out there. So it's a secret. What's a secret? How do I make money? So real quick, I won't go through it any more than I already have, but gentlemen, Retro, Ponga, what I had here was I built a little tool. So I'll basically be sharing this shortly after the live, plug in the variables in yellow, and I calculate all of the details for you, the profit margins, the cost of goods sold, so on and so forth, give you some nice resources, and you should be able to come out with your summary information here and hopefully make an informed decision. We can make sure that we make informed decisions with true facts and numbers, and that's how you can make money, right? That's the point of the story today. One time I got a card wrapped in garbage. If you got a card wrapped in garbage, I don't know what I would do. I've gotten some weird wrappings for sure. I've seen some others, but definitely not garbage, I would say. Retro, I'd use PWE's regular labels and then include a sticker inside the package as an added thing rather than using a seal. Yeah, here's my thought behind that. So, again, just my opinion. It may be worth negative, $10. I don't know. You make the determination. If somebody's once they've opened the envelope, what do they care about? What do you care about? You buy something, right? What do you care about when you open the envelope? Are you looking at the card? Probably not. Are you looking about any inserts they've added in there? Probably not. What do you do when you go to your mailbox and you pick up the regular stuff? If it's a bill, you get rid of all the other papers. You don't read all that stuff. Most people don't. And you actually just, what's the bill? What do I need to pay? When's it due? That's it. Now, here's my thought behind the, seal, the label, is every time they get an order from me, as they go through the process of opening the package, they're forced to look at my name and my logo. And then when they see that and they receive it in good condition, they have a positive experience. What's the best memory storage? It's emotion plus experience. So if they get a really good card they like, it completes that collection they were looking for, they built the deck they wanted, and they had a great experience, and they saw my logo, they will remember my name. If you put an insert in there, they probably won't see it. So that's my thought behind it. So far, and you can take a look at my eBay store. I'm not anything crazy. I'm not some big hotshot or anything like that, but most of the feedback I have is on great packaging and delivered as expected or better. That's what the majority of my feedback is. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, and that's okay. Retro. Back to your last point. Once they rip the package and the branding goes in the trash, that's okay, because it's here. That's here. But if it's inside, with the packing slip or whatever else is there, they probably discard it without looking at it. At least when they flip over that envelope, again, using this as an example, when they flip over this envelope, they have to look at this to open it. They have no choice, even if it's just for a split second. But when they look inside, they see something well packaged. And let's say they have 10 orders, right? They're gonna think, "Oh wow, that was really good. I like that." Pokemon Wonder. Okay, great. I'm going to order from him again. I was happy with that purchase. So if they're going to throw it away anyways, what's the best way to make an impact? That's really the question. Let's see. Yeah, versus they could put the sticker on their phone, the laptop. You know, Retro, to be honest with you, if I bought something from you and you gave me a cool sticker, I would put it on my laptop or my binder or whatever because I like you, right? But I don't expect people to put my sticker on their personal property. Now, for example, my oldest son, picked up a green, I won't say what it is because my podcast, my son watches sometimes. But he picked up the green sticker from the Green Shiz, right? And he put that right on his binder. Now, he didn't know what it was. But he showed me at the end of the Charlotte Collecticon. And so I sent a picture to the Green Shiz about that. But, for those people that we like, for sure, I would put a sticker on there. But most people won't do that. Most people won't. I said, I always care. So this is Ryan here. I always care about how they package the product or document their mailing or documents. Sorry, that's kind of blocked here from Streamlabs. Oh, here we go. Okay. I always care about how they package the product or documents when mailing out stuff. Well, again, I'm just one person. I'm just one example. Again, take or leave my perspective and my comments. It's just my thoughts. But I know how most people process it. I've worked in the corporate world for quite a long time. And the number of people that I have to reteach because they didn't read the documentation that we wrote and put the PowerPoint presentation together. They didn't watch the video that we did for training. They didn't join the meeting that we had. And these are adults in their career far on. The number of people who don't take the time to focus on it, you have to wonder, well, how do I engage with the person that's buying my product and make an impression, right? And that's it. So if you get 100, I'm just using this example. I'm sorry to beat the dead horse here, but that's what we're gonna do. If you have 100 plain white envelopes and you get one of these, it's gonna stand out. And most people, again, if you want to be different than most people, do something that everybody else is not doing. And so make your product look different. Now, I'll change this over time. Right now, it's this. But I'm probably one of the few that package my product the way they do and make it look the way. I'm not going to flip it over because, again, I want to show the person's address. This is a real order. But I'm one of the few that is going to look like this when they get their product in the mail, when it's single cards. So from that point of view, I'm going to stand out. And if you want to stand out, do something different. Much respect, Retro. Appreciate it, man. Good to see you, my friend. So last but not least, I think we'll probably end it here. Just a quick recap for those that have joined a little bit later. Make sure I'll add the link to the description shortly after the live. I'll give you this spreadsheet completely free. Adjust it as you see fit. If you have any improvements for me or I made a mistake somewhere, please let me know and I'll be happy to correct that and add it back out for everybody to have in the community. But this is going to help you calculate the sourcing, all the cost and resale, looking at grading versus raw prices. Plug in your variables here in yellow. Again, the easy instructions are over here to the right hand side. Find the card that you're looking for. Determine the raw price that you can purchase it for. Look up your graded prices and raw prices for reselling and just fill in the yellow blanks. Once you do that, everything else is calculated for you. And it's a great tool. If you don't already have this or something better, then maybe it's something that adds some value to your day and helps you make informed decisions and make good purchase decisions. So if it does, then my job has been serviced well, and I'm glad to have done it. Make sure to check out the resources if you want to look at any of the places that we look at prices, buy cards, so on and so forth. Again, the disclaimer, you're the best judge. Make sure you make your own informed decisions. And if you have any improvements, reach out to us. Email, Discord, Instagram, doesn't matter. Always here for you guys. So deeply appreciate everybody. I wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving. Make sure you enjoy some time with the family. Make some good memories. Make some people smile. And make sure you check us out on Sunday. We're going to be with Pokemon Classics doing our next Pokemon Rants. It's going to be a blast. That will be at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to check that out, and we're going to have a wonderful time. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the next rants, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one.